Hello everyone, welcome to our very first Zazzle chat of 2015. Hopefully the new year is starting off really well for all of our designers and that you're also still celebrating a good holiday season from 2014. We're still pretty excited about all of the new products that we've been adding lately and everything that we were able to add in 2014. Just to give you a little idea of how well we've been doing with that, or that we're really proud of, in the year of 2013 we added around 30 new product lines to the site, and in the calendar year of 2014 we added over 160 new products. So hopefully you've all been following along and enjoying those and getting to design on these new products. So today, this Zazzle chat is going to be all about our biggest new product line that we're really excited about, which is fabric. So we're very excited to show you all of that, and we are going to be showing you the different options that we have, giving you some tips for designing, things like that. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to send us questions on Twitter. We are at Zazzle, and you can use the hashtag ZazzleChat, and we'll take a look at those questions at the end. So, on our way to fabric, you'll see we have a new face with us today. This is Rachel, and she is one of our experts on fabric. So I'll let Rachel introduce herself.
Sure. My name is Rachel. I'm the category manager for home, leisure, and electronics. So I work on the strategy for products that fall within those categories. So all the way from sourcing through supply chain into marketing and customer experience within the home, leisure, and electronics groups.
Great. So what's an example of something that our designers might have seen on the site that was your handiwork?
Definitely iPhone cases. It was a big year in 2014 for our iPhone case lines, starting in September and going all the way through holiday this year. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the new products there.
Great. All right, so we want to jump right into talking about the fabric that you helped bring to our site. So we do have, how many different fabric types?
7.
Wonderful. Do you guys want to go ahead and introduce those?
Yeah, so we're really excited about fabric. I think, our fleece blankets have done well, our pillows do well, and we really were excited to kind of bring this into the portfolio. So we have 7 different fabric types, and they're all great. I think before we even get into the specifics and details, the first 2, which are combed cotton and Prima cotton, which you see, Pima cotton. Those really are good for like crafting and apparel.
Yeah.
And then the other 5, including our cotton twill, polyester poplin, polyester weave, ivory linen, and natural linen. And the natural linen is a little darker than obviously the ivory. Mm-hmm. And those are really good for like home decor projects.
Yes. You can also use some of these fabrics for apparel or crafting for certain. A great one to use for a jacket or maybe a bag might be the cotton twill. You could even make pants out of this, as it has more opacity than the combed cotton or the Pima cotton. Certainly apparel has traditionally been made out of linen. You can do some really beautiful projects with that. The poly poplin could make a great bag as well for certain. But typically, I would classify the combed and Pima cotton into a typical crafting, meaning quilting, things of that nature, and apparel group, and the other 5 into home craft and decor.
And regarding it's hard to see with these little samples that we have in our camera, but we really did focus on a lot of photography when we worked on the site. So if you go to our website, we have more shots down below that really showcase kind of the edge and the pattern that we have. And I think the photography is really beautiful, and it really showcases for users as well as designers the quality of our fabric.
It is. So on any of our product pages for fabric, if you scroll down under the product details, you'll see a link to learn more about our fabric types, and that will take you to a really nice page that has really high-res close-up photography showing you the actual printing on each of these different fabric types. So you can get a really good idea of the texture of these fabrics, how they'll print, things like that, all on that page.
And I think when you look at the fabrics, just so you know, this is actually made by one of our makers, Manual WW, and you might have heard of them in the past from past shows that we've done, but they were our pillow supply. They help print our pillows, and when you look at, if you've ordered a pillow, it's that same high quality product that we get, and all these are printed in the USA, in North Carolina.
Yeah.
The inks are
Very high quality, safe inks.
And yeah, and they're just really high quality fabrics that we're really proud to offer on our site.
Yep. So if you've taken a look at our tablecloths, our table runners, or our tree skirts, those are all also from Manual WW. So if you have seen the printing in real life on those, you know that the printing on this fabric is going to be that same high quality.
I think one thing that is a little different on other products is for this, I really wouldn't worry about what fabric you print on. We've actually tried to make it really easy for the consumer to switch between the different fabrics, and as a result, obviously you can publish on whatever fabric you want, but I wouldn't focus on certain fabrics. I would more focus on the design. And so, speaking of the design, we've introduced a whole new tiling system, which I know is definitely something we've worked hard on, and so we really are excited about it. So why don't you explain the new tiling tool for us?
Sure. I'm going to try and speak to this in the way that's most relevant to designers. And I really hope I do a good job here, but I know there will be questions coming in.
To that end, we are actually working on an instructional video, so Rachel can help out with some general tips, but we'll be having more intricate information for you a little later on.
Yeah. So in the past, we had a tiling feature on wrapping paper. And wrapping paper alone. Basically, that feature just allowed you to take one image and propagate it across the wrapping paper in one set size and in one set tiling mode, being basic. So one tile directly after the other. Our new tiling tool allows you to do a lot more with the way you tile. Specifically, you can upload any number of images and text into your tile field, and then manipulate those within your tile field to create a tiled pattern that is not just in the basic layout, meaning one tile directly after the other, but has new ways of creating a pattern. Namely, you can do your tiling in a half brick. So imagine the bricks on a house. One is slightly staggered from the other. You can do it in half drop. So one of the tiles drops down like that next to the other tile. And then you can do it in mirror, where everything is mirroring each other in sort of a 4-tile mirror effect to create some really, really interesting looks on the fabric.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit more about specifically the tile view and what other functions we have there to manipulate your tile other than the different ways to set up your tile?
Sure. So tile view is super interesting. It's totally new. Our engineers built this from scratch literally in the last month. They were working over the holidays to bring this to life. And what it does is it basically takes your art view on fabric. So imagine your whole yard of fabric, that's your art view, and it says, okay, no more is that the design space you're working with. We are going to convert that into a tile, which is a smaller design space that is now what you're working with, and we are going to take that design space and propagate it throughout the fabric. So your art file basically goes from being an entire yard of fabric to just a single tile. And then in our tile view, you are able to add images, add text in the same way you would to any other product, and work within that new space to create something that will be tileable so that when you propagate it throughout the fabric, it's going to look like a beautiful pattern.
Cool. So
it's really cool.
It is.
And we understand completely that there's a learning curve on this. It's new to us too, but I'm blown away. There's nothing else like this on a design site right now. Typically, you can only do this sort of work in Photoshop and Illustrator. And what we're hoping is that this is going to open up the opportunity to design patterns to people who may not have worked in those mediums before.
So what if a consumer has a really, they just want one pattern? You suggest them publish on the tile view still?
Yeah, publishing on tile view is a great way to go when designing for fabric. You basically can't go wrong if you publish in tile view. If you tile your design. So imagine that
But the tile view itself is more of our art and design view, so you don't want that to be your customer-facing view when you publish.
Yeah, it looks best in the marketplace if you pick a different view to publish, I'd say. When you pick to publish in the tile view, I suppose, which is the one with the ruler around your tile, that ruler actually shows up on top of your design in our search results. It's something that we are sort of working to correct for in other ways right now, but it doesn't really represent your design in the best light to a customer, I think, a lot of times, and so it's better if when you go to publish you can switch that to another view. Our detail group view is great for showcasing designs that feature a smaller pattern. Maybe like this dragonfly pattern would be a good example of that. And then maybe a fat quarter view might be a better way to showcase a design, maybe such as this one where you're going to want to get a sense for how the name goes throughout the fabric or something like that. And then if you want to publish a design that has a really big, bold pattern, I don't really have an example of that right here, but something that would really be appropriate only on a couch or something like that, or a big dress where you really need to see the scope of the pattern, that would be when you would want to publish showing the full yard.
Cool. And so, just to clarify, when you publish on the ruler view, or no,
you do not
want
to
publish on the ruler view, but
that's essentially your own design view.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you want to be customer facing. Yeah. That's for you when you're designing it, or for the customer when they're customizing it.
Yeah.
So just so you know, when you, the designer, are looking at the ruler view, those black lines will not come on the fabric.
No.
That's just so that you get a sense of the dimensions and the size for what you're designing on.
The other thing to know about that tile view is it is truly an art view. It's not what we call a real view, which is all those other views where it actually shows what the print is going to look like on the fabric. So you'll notice in particular with this natural linen, the color is going to be distorted by the undertone of the linen. So this yellow here on the linen will look different on a lighter fabric than it looks when it's printed on the natural linen. In the art view, meaning the tile view, you're just getting, this color of your screen, your computer monitor. And so if that's what you're publishing to customers, when they actually order your fabric, they're going to get something a little different in color. And so it's probably not the best thing to represent out there to the marketplace.
So as a designer, when I'm designing, what kind of tips do you have for making sure that my tile design is truly seamless and I'm not seeing any white spaces?
Yeah.
How can I utilize those tile size settings to make sure that my tile is really looking great on the fabric?
Okay. So I'm going to try and go through this really logically. I know there's been a ton of questions about this, and so please jump in and help me if you think it would be useful for the community. So number one, I'm first going to talk about what do you do if the image you've uploaded has already been designed by you in Photoshop or Illustrator to be tiled into a pattern. This is, a lot of you have designs that you've created outside of Zazzle that are already designed to be tiled, and now you want to import those into our tool, and that comes with a unique set of issues that I want to make clear right now. So first, what you're going to do is you're going to upload that image into the fabric, okay, and then you're going to tile it in Basic. It's very important to use basic, not half drop or half brick, because when you design that tile outside of Zazzle, you designed it to be tiled in a basic way. So tile it in basic, and then it's going to automatically size that image that you uploaded, that tileable image, to be one of our preset sizes. We have preset tile sizes for a very specific reason. It is to make sure that when a customer orders more than 1 yard of fabric, that design prints seamlessly across the full 10 yards he or she could order. And so 36, which is the length of a yard in inches, is divisible by a certain set of numbers. All of our preset tile sizes are multipliers of 36. So that when it goes from 1 yard to the next yard, it'll look exactly like it would anywhere else on the fabric and be completely seamless. So when you tile that image, you're going to tile it in basic. It's going to size to one of those preset sizes, and then what you can do to either make your whole pattern bigger or smaller is you'll actually use the tile size adjuster to do that. Do not change the size of the image itself. Okay, that will cause you to have white space if you shrink the image, or it will cause basically the image to wrap around itself and will cause it not to be a seamless tile pattern anymore. But if you just upload it, tile in basic, and use the tile size adjuster to go up and down in the overall size of your pattern, it will still continue to be seamless. Okay, if you want to change the size of the image, you can do that, but if you created a pre-tiled image outside of Zazzle, it will no longer be that seamless pattern that you were hoping for.
So if you're on the tile view, there's 2 different ways that you can do adjustments, which is changing the image size, which would change the size of the image within your tile. So that's how you would get that white space, and changing the size of the tile will change that entire space that's being tileable.
Correct. You know, I'm talking, I think, to a group that's pretty familiar with our product page and our design tools. So one way to think about this is we have grouped basically all of the features that affect the tile area together. You'll see the tile size adjuster, you'll see tile rotation there, and you'll see the tile pattern that you can choose there. So all of those features are affecting basically that box with the rulers. They're changing the size of the tile, which is your design area. The other features that you're used to seeing, you see them on all of our products, change your images and text within that design area. So we basically added a second layer of complexity here that comes with benefits and increasing challenges. And through our instructional video that we're hoping to put out, and also through this chat, we're hoping to make it more apparent what to do now and to develop the user experience over time to just make it more intuitive from the get-go.
So all this talk about the design tool, I'm sure you guys are excited to start designing, but let's talk about the price. So the price of these and how customers can get it. Currently you can buy it in a swatch. And how big is a swatch?
A swatch is 9 inches by 9 inches. We think it's big enough to give you a good sense for what your design is going to print like on the fabric, but not so big as to prevent it from being a very affordable, economical way to just get a sample to you in the mail.
A quarter?
A fat quarter is a really interesting term. This is a quilting term and should be familiar to anyone who quilts. However, if you do not quilt, you might be saying, that is very odd way to call something. So what's going on here is a typical yard of fabric is a big rectangle like this. Okay. Now, a quarter of a yard would be to section that up in a quarter like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. A fat quarter cuts the yard like this, sort of like a 4 square. So instead of being that skinny quarter of a yard, it is a fat block up in the corner. And then our site, the fat quarter is the corner in the top left.
And then we also in the yard, and as well as multiple yards, obviously. And the price, I think we really tried to make the price very reasonable. Yeah. And I think when looking at the competitive landscape, we are the cheapest per square inch.
I believe that is the case, but I
don't quote us on it. But I think in our research, we're the cheapest per square inch. So we're really excited. Not only are we bringing a great product to life, great technology, but also at a great price that's affordable to both our consumers who are crafting as well as anyone who wants fabric.
Yeah.
Speaking of the yards, if I'm a designer, I'm looking at the various views that we have. What is the best way for me to figure out exactly how that yard is going to print out and where that seam's going to be to make sure that when I'm taking a look, I can see that my product is seamless and I know how the customer is going to receive it?
Yeah, let's talk about the different views that you're seeing on the product page. So the first view, which we're calling front view, is literally a direct look at a yard of fabric. So the length you're seeing there, which is actually the shorter side of that rectangle, is the yard. It is 36 inches, okay? And then the horizontal length you're seeing there is the width of the fabric. So that can range on our current offering from 54 inches to 60 inches. And what you can do is you can imagine a printer at the top of it up there, just sort of printing the fabric off like this. So as you add yards, you're going to add to that vertical 36 inches, another 36 inches, and it's going to print down your screen almost like that. If you move to the next view, the vertical view, the horizontal part, the shorter part, is now the 36 inches or the yard, and the vertical part is the width, okay, the longer part, and you can think of your printer over here and printing off like that, okay? The third view is a seam view, which is key. It is key because it shows the intersection of the first yard of fabric and the second yard of fabric. So if your customer orders more than 1 yard of fabric, that view basically will show up on the product they receive, and you want to make sure that whatever it is you're creating, you are creating something that will seamlessly print if the customer orders multiple yards.
So that seam is displayed horizontally?
Horizontally, yeah. The shorter side is always going to be the yard, the part that is going to print according to how much the customer orders. Okay, the longer part is going to be the width, which is going to be static for any type of fabric.
Cool. So, I think there's one more question on the one more was the in situ shot of the marketing shot,
Yes.
which I think you might have noticed for a couple of our products we're trying to add these in situ shots or marketing shots. In situ shots are different from marketing shots. In situ, we actually mean in situation. So we really tried to, obviously when we're designing on blanks, it's hard to see what they look like in real life. So we tried to use the technology to show you what your design will look like in real life. And then the marketing photos, which are differentiated because they're below the fold, those are just photos that we have of samples, and they are non-dynamic, and so you won't be able to see your pattern. With this in situ, I think there shows a white border, which is confusing to a lot of consumers. And Rachel, do you want to explain why we have that?
I hope it's not confusing. The reason we have that white border is because it is simply true. It is the truth about the fabric you will receive. And we've gone to great lengths with that view to show you what you are actually going to get. The fabric, when it prints, will have basically a white border around it. And the reason for that is we want to give the customer the true size that we've advertised to them. So if we're advertising your fabric's going to be 60 inches wide by 1 yard long, the design is going to cover 60 inches and then 36 inches down, and then there will be a white border around that. And the reason is, fabric can have a very strange little track mark on the edge, which is what is used to roll it through the printer, and it basically destroys that inch or two of fabric on the edge, and then you have to cut it off. And so the white border on our fabric makes sure that your design is only covering something that the customer could actually use. If you print your yardage beyond 1 yard, if a customer orders 3 yards, those 3 yards will be printed in succession, one after another, with no white in between them, but there will be a white border around that entire 3 yards printed together.
So the truth is the customer is actually getting more than what they paid for.
Yes.
So your design is actually it is edge to edge in the fact that, they are getting the full edge of what we show on our site. Anything that's white around there, again, is so that they have the full fabric and that they can kind of really cut to the edge of the fabric.
It's the insurance policy to be able to say what we're selling you is definitely going to be what you're getting.
Yeah. So so hopefully consumers won't complain that we're cutting them short based on kind of the edge of this.
No, as someone who sews, I appreciate this. I have paid for fabric before where I had, the edges are unusable, and that's fine. That's sort of my expectation, having shopped in, brick and mortar fabric stores. But if I'm going to order online, it's great to know that what I think I'm getting is actually what's going to show up in the mail.
And regarding these in situ shots, I think we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from them. We'd love to kind of shoot more. It is a question of the technology side because, with fabric, it's harder to show what designs look like with draping. And we just, so we're still working on that, but we'd love to kind of figure out more, perhaps like on a tabletop or something. But in the meantime, we'll have more marketing shots and hopefully we'll have more galleries to showcase kind of the quality and the printing that comes from Zazzle fabric.
Yeah.
Great. So should we take a few questions from Twitter?
Yeah, I think we're just gonna talk about some of the consumers just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think really quick, when we're designing, I think a lot of the other products like pillows, there's a very, we've tried to give you some design tips and tricks. With fabric, I think we're going after a consumer that looks at Pinterest, that actually goes and does the crafts on Pinterest.
The DIY crowd.
The DIY crowd. I would say they skew female, but not necessarily. And so keep them, anything you see on Pinterest, feel free to advertise on Pinterest as well, because I think that's kind of where we're going to get a lot of our traffic to the site. But, obviously, anything that's hip on Pinterest, patterns, chevron, gingham, plaid. But also, I think in the people that are buying custom fabric, obviously they want to buy beautiful fabric, but they also want to buy something a little customizable. So anything that shows a template or a name, monogram, something that gets them to buy Zazzle fabric is something that's going to be the extra that will help you make that sale.
And don't forget that you can tile text in our new design tool for fabric. So that's very exciting. So
and you can templatize.
Templates are going to be the big thing. Name templates, monogram templates, photo templates, all of those we think are going to do really well.
So regarding, the design, I would say stay tuned to your emails because we might have a special something coming soon.
Yes, get your designs ready and check our blog tomorrow. All right, so let's take just a couple questions. So we actually did answer quite a few of the questions that we saw on Twitter already. So just going to grab a few more. Regarding the colors that you are seeing in all these different views for fabric, on screen they look a little lighter. Rachel, can you speak to that?
Sure. As a site, we make a real effort to show you exactly what your design will look like on the final product. So we, the color you're seeing in that real view is the color that you should expect to receive in the mail, essentially. I would say that, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the tile view is distinct from the other real views, and then the tile view is an art view. And those colors shown there are just your monitor screen colors. Our other views are showing you the true color that will print on the fabric. And so it's important to pay attention to those. If you're getting something that's lighter than you'd like it to be, ramp up that color in your design, and then you will see it printed brighter on the fabric itself. Okay.
I know there's a couple mentions of the current images looking a little blurry. That's actually more of an issue on our end that we're working out. It won't happen on the consumer side. When they actually get it, it's not going to be blurry, but that's something we hope to fix.
Yeah.
If the images that you are uploading are high resolution, you're not seeing that warning that we provide you, you can rest assured that that is going to print properly, and we're working to make sure that our design views are reflecting that properly as well.
Also, I think, we developed this tiling tool, as Rachel mentioned. We have our whole team of engineers worked really hard over the holidays, over the last month, to bring this to life. And so obviously, we really hope to, bring it to pillows and poofs and our bags. So that's definitely in the works. This is kind of our first test run. We're trying to get out any kinks or... just make sure that the tool is up to par, get feedback from our designers and our community before we roll it out to the rest of our line. But we're excited, so stay tuned for that.
Do you want me to just quickly shoot through these?
Yeah.
Sure. How well does the ink hold up to washing?
So specific information about how the fabric washes can be found in the product details on the product page. Since there's 7 and they're all a little different, I just recommend referring to them there. But it is definitely displayed for you by our very lovely product marketing team.
Great.
Let's just go back to the top one. Is the back white? The back is the color that the fabric is before anything is printed on it, but then the design will show through a little bit simply because this fabric is not 100% opaque. On some it's more than others, but there's nothing printed on the back of the fabric. Can we show that multiple yards are seamless? Yes. Just look at the third view, which is the seam view. Imagine a little dotted line going across the horizontal middle of that big rectangle there. That is your seam, okay? So if nothing looks odd or funny on that view, it means that everything's going to print seamlessly.
Maybe 2 more questions.
Will repeat patterns be available on other products? We certainly hope so. We are really excited to see how this catches on with fabric, to understand more about the designer experience, to understand more about the customer experience, and then think about how we're going to apply it to other products. This was a true feat of engineering to pull this off, and for us to apply it to additional products requires some back-end work. It's not just flipping a switch. So we are spending a lot of time to sort of understand how this is applying to fabric, and then are going to take it from there.
Great. And so fabric is printed by the same makers as pillows. Will they match? I think that hopefully the colors will match, but note that the pillows are a different fabric than the fabric. Yes, that makes sense. Pillows are a different fabric than the fabric. So there might be some slight irregularities in the actual fabric, since these are natural fibers. But they should be pretty similar. So you can rest assured that it's not going to be, shiny or...
As someone who spent a lot of time looking at this fabric, I can only perceive a difference between the pillow fabric and our cotton twill through a microscope. But, there you go.
All right. What does not suitable for children's sleepwear mean?
That is something from legal. We have our lovely legal team upstairs. No, not legal. They're...
Compliance.
Compliance, yes. And they really, everything we sell on Zazzle meets the highest expectations for compliance. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that, because of certain...
It's just not specifically rated to say that it is 100% absolutely safe for children, for sleepwear, things like that. So it's just something that we put there to make sure that we're not misrepresenting anything.
And basically it's not fire retardant.
Yeah. In order for something to be considered suitable for children's sleepwear, it has to have fire resistant coating essentially, and our fabric doesn't have that. Our fabric is no different than the fabric fabric that you would buy in a Joann's or a Hancock's or anything like that. They will carry the same warning. It simply means that as a basic cotton that has not been treated specially, it is not for legally considered suitable for children's sleepwear. Durability for upholstery use. What I'd recommend people doing for upholstery is ordering a sample and making that assessment on their own. I know that I would personally use a number of these for upholstery, but I think that that is an individual decision. And with upholstery, it's a pretty big investment in both time and money. And so part of the reason we provided that swatch product is to make sure that you can make that decision to invest in this on your own.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us today. I think we got a great, recap on our fabric. Obviously, we're working to bring new products, but fabric is definitely something we're excited about. Like Liz said, stay tuned tomorrow to the blogs. Something exciting will be posted.
And I'm sure there are still a few more questions about fabric, so please feel free to chime in on the forums. We'll get back to you there and provide you more information, and keep an eye out for our instructional video for using our new tiling tool. We'll have that out pretty soon as well.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in.